Hi, so our lesson today is Wangechi Mutu, the Forbidden Fruit Picker. This is a beautiful artwork that we have in our collection at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. And Wangechi Mutu is a very contemporary, cutting-edge artist. She lives in New York City right now. She's based out of Brooklyn, but she was born in Nairobi, Kenya. So she actually has a studio in Kenya and a studio in the United States, and she goes back and forth between them. She worked on the piece that we have at the museum on it's collage and on mylar, and that's a material that not a lot of us have worked with as an artist. I started working with mylar after reading about her work, and I actually use it in my own practice now. So it's a really cool material because it's kind of see-through but not completely, and it allows us to create layers in our artwork. So we're doing a collage project today, but it's a collage using mylar. So the difference is that we can add layers and have some transparency between the layers. So I have my materials in front of me today. A lot of this stuff you can find at home. Some of it is in your kit. We're sending you all a piece of mylar. It's also called Duralar. It's the same, it's just a brand name. So I'm gonna tear off this sheet here, and you can see what an awesome material it is and how it's transparent or semi-transparent, and it gives us some translucent parts to our work. Underneath it, I have a mixed media piece of paper of the same size. So these two sheets will be the base for my collage today. From here, I can create layers between them, and I can even cut out pieces. It's really a very fluid project. All right, so the central image in your project is going to be a figure. Wangechi Mutu did a lot of focus on the female form and abstracted the shapes a little bit based on body parts that she would find in magazines. She talks also a lot about nature in her artwork. So the challenge for us, the challenge I pose to you students and for myself, is to create a figure that's either, your choice, either a figure that's rising out of the earth, so like melting out of a piece of the earth, or growing out of a piece of the earth, or create a figure that's melting down into the earth. In the artwork that we have on display, you'll see there's a tree behind her, and it's actually a biblical reference to the forbidden fruit picker. But our project, we're just going to keep it to the figure and to nature. Okay, so for my figure, I've decided to draw a woman who's kind of growing out of the earth, out of a tree. I really love trees, and trees are very symbolic in art. So here's the earth, here's the ground, and here's the tree trunk. And it's going to come up to sort of a skirt that this woman is wearing, a flowing skirt. Here's her waist, her arms. I'm drawing her body in kind of a fantastical way because since it's a collage project, it doesn't have to be perfect. It really can be your own unique abstracted figure. So here I've drawn the woman. Here's the earth. It's kind of like a tree trunk, but she floats off to the side almost like the wind is blowing her that way. And then you can see where her arms would be, her waist, and her head and hair flowing down. So this gives me a good space from which to work on my collage. And from here I can fill this in with all different types of paper and found collage pictures that I have in these magazines. Really quickly, before I even start, I want you to see how translucent it is with the mylar over top. So you can really see how transparent it is, which is awesome. All right, now the fun part. Think about the colors and the images that you want to put into your person. I have a really cool watercolor magazine here. I'm thinking of greens and teals and blues, kind of to represent water and earth and colors from nature. So I'm going to be looking through these magazines for earthy type pictures that I can cut out. And already, I mean, there's so much material in these magazines, so much inspiration. Right away, oh, well, now I see a beautiful sunset. I might add that in the background, actually. So the way I do collages is I just rip out the whole page that inspires me and I start collecting them. And from there, I have plenty of material. I actually like this watercolor image right on the front of this one, so off comes the front of that magazine. I feel like this is going to have some nice kind of, ooh, lots of nature here, rocks and a stream. That could be really a good color that I'm looking for. So I'm actually leaning away from humans right now and collecting more earthy colors. Okay. Wangechi Mutu used all different types of female skin tones to create these multiracial creatures that you can't even tell what or who they are in some ways. And sometimes she focused on African women and a form of African art. So if you look through these magazines, you're going to see so many different skin colors. Oh, this one has freckles, like me. Huh. I think I'll use her for sure. So you can get all, so over here I'm going to start collecting different skin tones. Here's a lighter skin. Here's, oh, black and white model. So I can find all these different skin tones that I can put into my creature when I'm ready. The next step will be cutting out the found photos or images that you've collected into the different shapes that you're looking for. I really love immediately as I put this down the composition that it makes coming across here with the creek and rocks. So this is the really creative part of the process. And for me, when I do collage, I actually have a pencil or a marker. And actually, in this case, I'm going to use a marker. And I kind of stop where my image is, and I try to trace the best I can so that when I cut it out, it's going to fit onto my creature. So this is going to be the rock right here. So if you can see this, what I did here, I used the lines underneath and I drew across here. So now when I cut this out, it's going to fit its face. Here's a better view so you can see what I was just working on. I really like this picture here, and I thought that it would be a good section for this part of my collage. So I took my marker and I just traced along, lifting up the paper and traced along there so that I could see the shape that I want to do. Now when I cut it out, hopefully it'll fit pretty close to what I just drew. Bring this across here. I use collage a lot in my work now, and this is the technique that I've adopted, and I find it really helpful. Okay, so it fits almost perfectly. There we go. This part I can just add in something else, but down here it fits really nicely. I really like how the water is spilling downwards, and it almost feels like that idea of her growing out of the earth. It just feels really connected right there. So before I glue it down, actually I'm going to probably use this as the background over here. So it might be helpful to slide it under so that it's kind of a seamless connection there. So we have that coming over to here. So I think I'm going to do that to connect those two. So that's something else I do as an artist when I'm doing collage, is I don't do everything all at once. I kind of overall look at the composition before I start gluing, because that helps me. For this part, I want to use some body parts and skin tone the way Wangechi Mutu does. So I just started cutting out different models. You can keep some of the shadows in the body parts. Like here, I'm going to keep this chin line. Now we know it's a chin, but once I have it cut out, it'll be harder to tell. Wangechi Mutu also uses mouths in funny and interesting places. That's something that I haven't done as much, but I know it's something that she does. I'm cutting out kind of soft shapes that I can cut down again later and use them as I wish to fill up the body here. So these figures are almost cyborgs. They're almost like parts that you don't recognize that can become a new figure. Ooh, I think I'll use her hand, because behind her knuckle there's some nice light changes that I think I can add in. So we'll continue to fill up her body there. I also have this really funky paper, and this is just scrap paper. So this scrap paper can add as well to areas where you want a pattern. I think I might use this piece here to bring it down in this section to fill this up somehow. So here's the collage section. Bringing back in the mylar now, here's a few things you can do. When I put the mylar over top, see how it gives it almost a shady coloring? And then you can actually paint on the mylar, and you can cut out sections of the mylar as well so that certain parts shine through even more. Then you can come back and do another layer and do collage right on top of the mylar to change parts of it as well. So there's so many options and layers that you can do as you work on this collage piece. Wangechi Mutu creates her images drawn from anthropological, medical, ethnographic texts, pornography, and even Vogue magazines. A lot of times in her artwork, she draws attention to the violence that women, particularly Black women, endure in today's society. Her works on paper also investigate topics like gender, race, and colonialism. As you think about the type of shape that you want to draw as your figure, you can look at some of Wangechi Mutu's artwork online for inspiration. Her figures are often drawn from gestural images, gestural movements in dance and fashion, and also from medical journals. Her mother was a nurse, so she was used to seeing, looking at her mother's textbook for inspiration as well. So as you work on your project, try to use that for inspiration. Okay, so I've put these two pieces together in a way that I really like, so I feel ready to glue them down. Even though I'm ready to glue them down, I'm actually still not going to glue it down completely. This is how I work, because I don't want it to be final till the end, so I'm actually going to glue it down just enough to hold its space. So I can still make some changes or slide things underneath if I need to. So to conclude this project, you can keep working and adding layers. Mine's not quite done here, but I will put a photo in so you can see the final copy. Wangechi Mutu really did an awesome job working with layers and creating this fantastical creature. So I'd like you to do the same on your projects. My workspace is quite messy, and that's great if yours looks like this when you're done, because that means that you've done a great job flipping through magazines, creating pieces to really bring your project to life. So have fun working on this project, and I can't wait to see what you guys work on.